Reducing tillage contributes to enhanced soil health through minimizing soil disturbance. Conventional reduced tillage systems rely on herbicide for elimination of weeds, which is not allowable under organic regulation. One method of reduced tillage in organic production that has received increased attention by Pacific Northwest farmers uses mechanical termination to create a weed-suppressive cover crop mulch where crops are either directly sown or transplanted. This mulch layer helps retain soil moisture and suppresses weeds throughout the growing season. This video is intended to introduce organic producers to the use of cover crop residues for organic reduced tillage crop establishment. This cover crop-based mulch system is dependent on vigorous fall-planted cover crop stands. Seeding the fall cover crop between late August and mid-September in western Washington will provide the early growth needed for sufficient biomass levels in the spring, resulting in dense and suppressive mulch layers. Sowing the cover crop too late in the fall may result in inadequate stands. Drilling the cover crop will increase seed-to-soil contact for uniform stand development. If cover crops are broadcast instead of drilled, a higher seeding rate is recommended. Our research has found that timing is critical for success when terminating cover crops mechanically. Cover crop maturity must be assessed in the field to determine the correct termination stage and ensure no regrowth and development of viable seed. Fall-planted cover crops need to reach a reproductive maturity stage in order to limit regrowth after termination. Mechanically terminating rye or vetch during vegetative stages leads to unsuccessful termination and regrowth of the cover crop. When cover crops have reached reproductive maturity, it's critical to terminate, as waiting beyond this point could cause volunteer rye or vetch in future growing seasons. When flail mowing, vetch can be terminated as early as first bloom or as late as initial pod set with minimal regrowth and no seed formation. Rolled rye needs to have reached late pollen shed to limit regrowth, but no later due to the possibility of seed formation. Flailed rye in western Washington has been successfully terminated up to early milk and as early as swollen boot stage with minimal rye regrowth. One method of termination is roller crimping, which crushes and lays residue horizontally. These implements are often front-mounted in combination with rear-mounted strip tillers or planters for increased efficiency. Our research trials have demonstrated that rolling up pollination does not consistently prevent viable cereal rye seed formation. Flail mowing is another option that has proven successful in our trials for terminating both rye and vetch. Dense stands of rye are demanding on equipment, so sharp mower teeth and low operating ground speed are required for even cut and residue distribution. Both termination methods can leave an effective weed-suppressing mulch layer if adequate cover crop biomass is achieved. Flailed residue initially creates a thick, thatched mulch layer, but tends to degrade faster during the growing season. It is also important to note that flailed mulch can lead to challenges with no-till planters, as the lightweight residue can drag and clog depending on equipment design and settings. At the Puyallup Research and Extension Center, a powered strip tiller was designed and built by modifying a Maggio multivator. This unit cleans residue from the strip, provides deep tillage with a subsoiling shank, and creates a fine seed bed. Equipment flexibility is important if multiple cover crops are used. High carbon rye residue can be removed from the strip through the addition of a coulter and cleaning wheels to limit nitrogen tie-up. Vetch, having a lower carbon to nitrogen ratio, is often incorporated into the strip to provide slow-release nitrogen for the cash crop during the growing season. Crops can be no-till transplanted into undisturbed residue if maximum soil moisture retention is needed, or transplanting can occur after strips have been built if early season soil warmth is needed. This transplanter uses a leading coulter to keep residue from collecting or clogging, and can be used in both no-till and strip-till systems. Weed pressure can still be problematic in these reduced tillage systems, as fall tillage is often used prior to cover crop planting, replenishing the next season's weed seed bank. Additionally, perennial weeds are typically not suppressed. To limit weed competition in seed development, high residue cultivation can be used to undercut weeds beneath the mulch layer, leaving the majority of residue in place. This cultivation unit uses a leading coulter to cut through the residue layer, followed by a non-inversion undercutter to eliminate weeds between crop rows. Mid-season cultivation may require narrow sweeps to limit crop root disturbance.
There's a few challenges that we've had has been being able to mechanically cultivate if your mulch wasn't 100% successful. So then being able to get in there and mechanically cultivate because you've kind of committed to now being out of the rest of your operational protocol of getting in so that you can at least keep weeds from going to seed and outcompeting your crops.
Transitioning to cover crop-based reduced tillage is a management-intensive process which can increase overall production risk. Starting with test plots to become familiar with new equipment settings is highly recommended. Rotate into reduced tillage by managing perennial weeds prior to the transition. Strong cover crop stands are helpful, and planting them early in the fall will more likely lead to a strong stand. With strip tillage, in-row weeds are likely. Determine a weeding method for in-row weeds if using strip tillage. Producers may want to have fallback measures in place, like conventional tillage equipment, if sufficient spring cover crop stands are not achieved. This has been a video from the WSU Center for Sustaining Agriculture and Natural Resources and Puyallup Research and Extension Center. Funding for this video was provided by the Western Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Program, the G.A. Harris Fellowship, and WSU's Biologically Intensive Agriculture and Organic Farming Grant Program.